Hello, and thank you for supporting our planet work. This is CD number 3 in the series, Insights from the Otherside. On this CD is the second interview with Barbara Rose, entitled, Preparing for the World Not to End. Topics include how mankind becomes free of survival existence, reincarnation, we are all about to be born again, and, believe it or not, we are wise and graceful beings. Okay, let's get started.
And good evening. We're back, and the show begins. And we will begin at the beginning of this amazing experience that Mellon had. In fact, I think some of you probably heard quite an extended version of his near-death experience, and we're going to shorten it a little bit so that we can tell you, so that we can have you join us with some phone calls and also talk about some things that weren't discussed on the last program, specifically end of karma and fifth dimensional reality. Welcome, Mellon.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yeah. So what was it like coming back? What sort of a person were you when you emerged back into your body with this information?
Well, before I died, I was real pessimist. I really believed that the human race was going to destroy the planet and overpopulate it and destroy everything on its way. And I really believe that because I started perceiving humanity as a rampant, out-of-control cancer, that's why I developed my cancer. And I got a real good case of it, a terminal case. The difference is that when I came back, that everything I went over thinking was a problem was actually part of a solution. I had not been seeing it in a big enough picture. And I was given the big picture of what all of this is about on the planet, including nuclear missiles, toxic waste, population, karma, reincarnation, all of these things I was educated. And I got a tour on the other side of the Cosmic Records. This is where all knowledge is. Not only is the Cosmic Records is full of the good, the bad, the great, the awesome, the ugly. It's everything that ever was is in the Cosmic Records. And those Cosmic Records, by the way, are also stored in every cell of your body, in every atom in the universe. We're never far from.
It's like a hologram.
That's right. We're never far. We're in the Cosmic Records.
So who or what was giving you this tour and giving you this experience? How do you describe that?
When I was in front of the light, not being a very religious person at the time, the first thing the light changed into, because I came from a Western Christian-oriented background, I saw Jesus. And I mean, I really saw the vibration of Jesus. It's for real. It's a true vibration. And then it changed into like Buddha and Krishna. I'm talking about the real vibrations. I really know these things are for real. And it started changing into many, many other kinds of gods and people that had been on the planet to enlighten us. And I asked the light, I said, well, who is the real God? What's the real God? And the light said something to me that absolutely electrified everything that I had ever known. And the light said, I am. But what that meant was that each and every one of us is God, period. We are all made of God's stuff. And the I am meant that you are, I am, we all are God. And then I was given the big picture of what Godhead may be, and we have a very limited concept of it right now in our system. There are many people still thinking that God is some sort of male figure with a beard up there waiting at the pearly gates.
They can't. They don't think that.
a few still do. I was enlightened about that.
Did you think God was a gray-haired man with a beard?
I didn't know. It was never a big question to me until I died, and I kind of got serious about it, but right before I died. But what was really speaking to me was what I call the great self. The entire universe, the entire Godhead experience of which we're a part of is one large, one great self that's ever expanding, that never had a beginning and doesn't have any ending. The old question of where did it all come from is mute in the larger universe, because it never had a beginning and it never has an ending. And that's a concept we're just barely even being able to even conceive at this level of consciousness. And
it
really is.
It's impossible
to think of something that never had a beginning. But soon we'll be conscious enough to grasp that concept.
You think so?
Oh yeah, very soon. Very, very soon, this entire spiritual trip humanity's been on will be completed, because spirituality in the Godhead universe is just one small band, like a rainbow. It's the violet band. And there are many other bands of consciousness experience in the universe besides spirituality and besides materialism. In fact, I learned that there's more to this Godhead universe than life and death. There's more than forever. There's more than time and space. Much, much more. We're just barely even beginning to get into a level of consciousness where we can even begin to even toy with those ideas.
When you say that this process is unfolding rapidly and soon we're going to be in another relationship to it, what do you mean by soon?
In cosmic time, in the blinking of an eye now, it's so close, it's a breath away. Everything that mankind, all the highest aspects, some in the Christian religion would call it the millennium, others would call it the age of Aquarius. It's been many, many names for it. The name now being bandied around, and I tend to use too, is we're coming into fifth dimensional awareness now. And it's hitting everybody, from housewives to metaphysicians. It's really coming on quite fast now.
What do you mean you can invent on command?
I have access to the cosmic records, and scientists and people can ask me questions, and I have a track record that shows that I bring in very, very valid information. Not so much philosophical, because that's I want it to be of some practical use to the world.
Fifth dimensional reality. We have 3 dimensions. A fourth dimension, would you call that time?
What we have already evolved through all the other dimensions, from the Big Bang to this moment. First dimensional reality is about subatomic structure, the Big Bang experience. Second dimensional reality is where the atomic structure started forming in the individual atoms that form the physical universe to hold consciousness. Third dimensional reality is reality where we first come into sort of a consciousness, this 3D world that we know and live in, where you have tables and chairs and 3D reality around you.
Does it involve the coming out of matter into life?
Yes.
Three-dimensional?
The evolutionary spiral begins. And in fourth dimensional reality, which we're well into now and coming to the end of, is the development of the mental realms. And plants have a little bit of this, animals have a little bit of it, but the human beings are really the masters of fourth dimensional reality, which means a concept of time and space, concept of history. In fourth dimensional reality, a mental reality, you're able to develop technology, and that technology will allow you to look at a star and to figure out what that star is made of, and then to figure out that you're made of that star. Fifth dimensional reality, which we're coming into very rapidly now, is when we go beyond the mental. The mental has served us, and it will serve us in the future, but the mental is only a small part of the being that we really are, only one band in the rainbow that we are. Fifth dimensional reality is the gateway to all other dimensions. When you finally reach a fifth dimensional awareness, you are in an awareness that can conceive of the past, the present, and the future in the now, and this is happening as we talk all around the world. It is also getting into a dimension of manifestations, and manifestations are starting to happen all over the planet. More and more people are doing manifestations.
What do you mean by manifestations?
Manifestations would be something like what Sai Baba does, where they can make material appear out of thin air, when they're basically using the atomic structure of the universe to do that. There's plenty of energy in the universe to manifest anything that we want. The universe is super abundant. People like Sai Baba and others that are doing that and are doing the manifestations today, making things appear out of thin air, are the 100th monkey. Because if one human can do it, all humans can do it. And that's what they're really about for the rest of us to understand, not to worship them, but to realize what's coming.
How does that process of manifestation work? How does someone like Sai Baba or whoever...
I've worked with some manifestors, but I can tell you that it's a non-mental process. These are not intellectuals that are doing the manifestations on the planet today. I know of no PhDs doing manifestations. Now, not that I'm putting them down, but if you get too mental, you cut off the magic of life, and there's a lot of magic in the universe. How I see it when I work with manifestors is that all manifestors manifest with their eyes open, and when I can see energy since I came back from the other side. I can see all sorts of realms of energy. And as I watch them and photograph them and film them, I can see that they have a fifth dimensional visualization process going on, in which you and I may be able to picture something in our head, but the minute you're able to picture it outside of your head, it will manifest.
Can you explain that in a little more?
If you can imagine imagining a rose in your head and going over the details, getting a picture on your mental screen, that's the way most people visualize today. And that is a manifestation of certain thought form energy. To manifest physical phenomenon, I really see that, say they want to manifest a rose in your hand, they have such an intense visualization process that they see in 3 and 4D reality, and the energy absolutely fills into that mold. It's an intense visualization outside of your head.
So where does the matter come from that is...
The matter comes from the local area, the atoms right around your hand, wherever it manifests. I've watched this and filmed it happening. And when it's happening, it looks like, if you've ever seen a time-lapse photography of something jumping around real quick as it goes through the time-lapse, this is what it looks like. It looks alive. And then suddenly matter forms, and then suddenly it forms into something. And it's an amazing process to watch. And I've made films of this, of people that are doing it.
Now, what you're suggesting is this is something that all of us can do.
Right.
How do we get from where we are to doing this, if indeed it's something we want to do, which it sounds like it is?
It is, and it's a non-mental process. First, we have to learn to really engage the non-mental part of our being, which is 99% of our being.
What is the non-mental part of our being? Are you talking about the body?
The physical, the sensual, the atomic, the vibrational. It goes on and on. There's so much outside of the mental realm. The mental realm can serve us well, but it also gets in the way quite often.
What happens in the bodies of people that have this ability, in your understanding?
From what I've seen, people like Tomas in Brazil, who is a fantastic manifester, he was someone, and this seems to be a thing that runs through most manifestors that we've studied, is that at some point in their childhood they had a severe electrical event, like getting shocked, or Tomas, in his case, was struck by lightning. And this
that qualifies as a severe electrical event.
This seems to do something to the pituitary gland and the pineal. And the scientists have been looking into this because there is a common thread throughout all manifestors. People that can produce psychic phenomena, PK, psychokinesis, move things with their mind.
So it's related to these two glands, it seems?
They think so. I mean, we're just beginning to get into the science of it, but I don't know if science will ever figure it out completely because most of the universe cannot be figured out, period.
So going out on a stormy night and inviting a lightning strike does not necessarily mean you're going to work.
Yeah, now Tomas loves to go out in thunderstorms and get charged up and scream energy, energy, and wants you to go with him. But I thought, I don't know, so... but I did think about inventing beanies with lightning rods on them for those that would like to chance it, or stick your finger in a wall socket, who knows?
So how many times has Tomas been struck by lightning?
Once that I know of, as a child.
So then he just goes out and enjoys the storms without being struck?
Yeah, he has no fear. See, and this is another thing about the humanity's next level of evolution and consciousness, is a realm in which is so different from our world today. We won't be in different bodies, but we will be in a different world. If you could understand the psychic world of, say, Rome when Julius Caesar was alive, it's a different psychic realm than we live in today, a different head, in other words.
Yes.
Different thinking, different processing. The world of the future, which is very, very close, it's as close for many of us as our next incarnation. It's that close. This world in which we will be able to manifest and do all of these sort of things is a world in which there is no fear. You see, we have to, the biggest thing, and we'll be talking about the end of karma too, the biggest thing humanity is processing right now is fear. And we have had fear since we were one-celled amoebas all the way to the present moment. We have known nothing but survival mode behavior and existence.
So what's the genesis of fear if we've had it that long?
The genesis is basically survival, and in the human higher intelligence we call it fear. Animals have this, but it's a survival a way of existence in which you're born, you eat, you reproduce, you die, and you start it over again. And the human being is the first part of the Gaia system that will transcend the survival mode of existence. And we are so very lucky to be human, because I can tell you what one night in the jungle would be like compared to one night in the human realm. The human realm is absolutely incredibly graceful realm, no matter what you think about what's going on out there from the media.
So you really feel that, contrary to the doom and gloom reports that we are filled with on a daily basis, that we are heading out of this, and that we're not going to annihilate ourselves or destroy our planet or X, Y, Z.
Absolutely. I got a review of world history, and especially in detail for the next 400 years. The people of the future look back on us in this time as the giants of history. Can you believe that? It's absolutely amazing. We don't even know what we're doing that is benefiting mankind. We are that, those of us that lived in the Industrial Revolution are a small burst of energy that set mankind free, because we're not meant to be industrial animals. That was only, the Industrial Revolution altogether will be a small segment of human evolution. The future is non-industrial. We can talk about that later if you want to, but the future is non-industrial. I came back in '82 telling people that there will never, ever again in history be as many jobs as there once was before. There's no need for it anymore. We're moving into a different society and a different world. Now, as we move into fifth-dimensional awareness, we become incredibly sensitive to everything around us, and this is what I'd like to talk about on Saturday and in my talks that I give these days, is to help people understand what's happening to them, that they're not going crazy at all, and to not let people tell them they're going crazy. We are rapidly moving into an awareness that includes the past, the present, and the future. It includes seeing angels. It includes seeing energy and dimensions, and incredibly more psychic sensitivity in the human being now than ever before. And this sensitivity is also the very sensitivity that is driving some people crazy, because in fifth-dimensional awareness, if your job is not right for you, you will not be able to stand it. Your cells and your body will not be able to stand it. There's a great correction that goes on as we move into the fifth-dimensional awareness, and that's for a very good reason, because once we move into the next realm, which is a manifestation realm, create your own reality en masse, if we took fear with us, we would destroy the world very, very rapidly. We know the mind-body connection now, and how our thoughts and stress can destroy our immune system slowly. If you're in a manifestation mode and you have this kind of stress and fear, you will destroy your immune system instantly. So there's a natural...
So you'll destroy yourself instantly.
And in this realm we live in now, whenever you have negative thoughts or argue with somebody, you're getting more of it than they are.
Sure.
You see, and we're starting to begin to realize that. Fifth-dimensional awareness is also about realizing that we're part of a larger living being called Gaia, that we're a part of a being that's much larger than ourselves.
You mentioned the 100th monkey theory, or as Rupert Sheldrake sometimes calls it, the 1,000th rat effect. I love that. I like 1,000th.
How about the second banana?
The second banana. Do you have a sense of us heading towards a point in the near future when we just sort of wake up together all of a sudden in some morphic, simultaneous awareness?
In cosmic time, yes. In cosmic time, it will now happen in the blinking of an eye, but humans tend to want to wait for a certain date,
So we're not going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly we
some
will have this...
Some have waken up 10 years ago. Some are waking up this moment. Some are waking up 10 years from now. In cosmic time, the previous 100 years before us and the 100 years after us is absolutely a blinking of an eye. And in cosmic time, that's pretty much on the dime. Everybody's going to be pretty much waking up in the same time, you see.
So how do you think the people in the future are going to perceive you? Are you going to be...
I've seen the future, and I know what I'm known for in the future.
What are you known for, Thomas?
I'm known for my second book.
Your second book?
Called The Unimaginable Meaning.
Good. So we have the end of karma to talk about, and then we'll open up the phone lines.
Okay.
What do you mean by karma's ending?
The end of karma is very, very exciting, and a way to get into it is to say that, I don't know how many people have noticed this, but I've been talking about it ever since I came back, that all the prophecies on Earth of every culture there is ends in our lifetime, very soon now.
Say that again.
Every prophecy on Earth ends in our lifetime. And that's because the ancients had no way to predict what's going to happen next. And that's again because up till now the future's been very, very easy to predict. It's just been a repeat of the past.
Is that perhaps, this is kind of interesting, is that perhaps why the Muslims, the Islamic people say that Muhammad is the last prophet? That's always confused me.
Well, that's their version, and that's their reality.
Is that, but is that speaking perhaps to this time?
Not really. We're going to have wise ones with us for a long time. We manifest these beings. The humanity manifests these beings, these Christ consciousnesses. They're just a part of ourself that we manifest. The end of karma, and the end of karma is very, very interesting. There's in the Industrial Revolution has broken up the old world. Same issues time after time after time, and we're just about worn out with it.
And the high divorce rate breaks that
breaks
down.
it up, and the Industrial Revolution broke up that old family unit that was a very narrow band of consciousness. And the fundamentalists are freaking about this, but really, in Gaia's sense, it's a freeing of the system for further growth. What it allows us to do is extend families beyond the bloodline now. You know, we have foster families, we have extended families now, and we also are we're creating new types of families that are not necessarily related to bloodline.
And yet are just as strong in many ways.
Oh, yeah, much stronger, in fact, and freer of the old things. The other thing is that, en masse, people are disassociating from the past now. Not that the past is bad, it's just that it's time to change. And this is reflected by disassociating with our parents and things like that. There are many, many people that love their parents, but they really need to get away from them. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't feel bad about that. This is a part of the process.
And you're saying that hasn't always been the case.
Well, we've been stuck for survival reasons to our families. Even though we hated them or loved them, we could not survive without them.
Does end of karma feel to you like what people are calling end of history?
It is the end of history as we know it. We are in fifth dimensional awareness, and in the end of karma, people are going to start realizing that not only is the present changeable, the future is changeable, but more than that, the past is changeable. And we're not only going to change the future now, as we change the present, we are going to change the past.
And that's because in fifth dimensional reality, everything's simultaneous.
Yes, and because these dimensions have always been here and more, it's just that we're waking up to them. It's nothing new to the universe. It's new to us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the process of changing the past? How does that work? How will the past be changed?
Many people are doing it through past life regression work, future progression work. They're clearing out their past, and there's this urge in a lot of us to clear out our past. It's been holding us down, mm-hmm. and literally, it's okay to go back into the past and rewrite your history. Any of your history you don't like, you don't have to carry anymore. You're not stuck with it. And I do quite a bit of this work in my own life and with others. And anytime I go into a past life in which there's something I don't like, I get the lesson first. It is perfectly all right and possible and tangible to go into the past and rewrite your history and create a new history. Now, we've been doing this all along anyway, because all the history books throughout history have always been rewritten by who? The winners. Mm-hmm. You know, and mostly by men lately.
Yes,
you know. Yes. So who writes the history books? What is history really? In fact, reality itself is a very slippery thing. You know, 10 people can look at the same thing and get a different opinion of it, and that's reality. Yes. Reality is nothing you can nail down, believe me.
Yes.
It's all changeable, it's all mutable, and the cat's out of the bag, and it's wonderful.
So if we all simultaneously decided that our history was one thing rather than another thing, history would be changed, wouldn't it?
Yes, and we've been doing this anyway throughout history. When we went from different cultures and we took on the different histories of those cultures. Our history right up to this point is very, very blend of everything. There's nothing pure about it. Everybody's history is mixed up with everybody else's, and it just depends on what slant you want to put on the history in your history books. What is history anyway? Is history is a nail that you're going to stay pegged with on a cross the rest of your life? It's not that way. We've been taught it's that way, but it isn't. You can pull that nail and get free of it and rewrite your history. I've been doing this work extensively in my life since I came back, and I can go back. I revisit past lives now to enjoy them, to spend time.
Can you give
there.
us an example?
Well, all of us have had some good lives, believe it or not. We've all had a couple of good lives here or there, many lives actually. But there are certain lives, like I have a life that I like to revisit in Germany around the 14th century, and I was a peasant, but I had a nice family and a couple of boys, and I had a cow, and a good wife, and a little hovel to live in. And one of my favorite things was going hunting with the boys in the woods. It was spend days, and camping and come back with a catch. And I remember in that life, one of the highlights of that life was when I traded somebody for a cow.
You traded somebody for...
I actually got my own cow, and that's like having a Cadillac or something. It was
what did you trade for the cow?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but it involves... whenever the landlords got in fights back then, they got the tenant farmers to fight for them, and I happened to be on the land of a lord that was always arguing with everybody. So, and if you didn't go fight, they put you off the land. So, and they didn't pay you to fight either.
So this was a conscription deal.
Pretty much, they didn't pay you to fight. So what the peasants would do is they'd go fight and risk their lives. But boy, when they got into town, they pillaged because we weren't being paid to risk our lives. So you got good at looting, and I didn't catch on to this for a while. I would always get in the wrong end of town and find it all looted. I discovered by accident, because I was very ignorant, that books were valuable, and the looters were overlooking the books. But I would find these books in some homes that had gold in them, and I thought it was just gold and valuable. And when I went to the next town, rich people wanted them. So I remember trading a book for a cow. It must have been a really good book, because the man gave me a whole cow for it. And I thought that was the best deal I ever made. And on the way home, I bought some bread and some honey and, had me some milk and had just the greatest time. You see, simple things like that.
What was your most dramatic life memory?
Past life memory was when I ended my warrior path. Many of us have been on the warrior path for many lifetimes.
Hard to avoid it, I would think.
I was one of them. I've spent many lifetimes as a monk or a priest, warrior priest, who was fighting for what I thought was right, whatever that was at the time. And I remember my last life as a warrior, when I left the warrior path, I was a monk who would fight and kill for the side that I was on. And I remember in those days, you would stop fighting around sunset, and you would literally go through the fields giving the coup de grace, the killing off the wounded, because that was grace. You wouldn't let them suffer and let the dogs eat them and all that sort of thing. So it was at sunset, and I was moving through the field with some other monks just killing the wounded. And they would look in my eyes with such grace, saying thank you, as we would kill them quickly and move through the field. And we'd finished killing off the wounded, and I was wiping my sword, and an angel appeared to me and said, you'll never do this again. It's over now. And I remember literally breaking my sword and walking off from the field, and I've never been a warrior since.
Hi, you're on the air with Mellon.
Thank you. Earlier you touched briefly on some of us are getting more and more sensitive, and some of us are being branded mentally ill. And I'm, as someone in that position, I would just like some advice on how to handle that and to maybe make the shift from the psychiatric diagnosis to coming to terms with the sensitivity. And I'd like to get off the air and just listen to you.
Okay.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm trying to get people to understand that this is happening to so many people now, and one person going through it will go through end up getting put in mental institutions, while another person, such as this woman from England who's recently written a book, a very famous book that's been on all the talk shows now. She's a woman.
Which one is that?
She's a woman who died in the 20s as a mother and left 6 children to be orphaned.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've seen
Now,
that.
this is, to me, a great example of how fifth dimensional awareness is hitting everybody. Now, this is a woman who's a housewife in England, not very metaphysically oriented, but she kept having these dreams of being someone else and what happened to her children, because she died in childbirth in the 20s, and her children were orphaned.
How many did she have?
6. And so, in this life, she has this rememory. It keeps coming back in stronger and stronger. So she gets some money together and goes to this town that she felt she ought to go to, finds the history of the family, but the children were all like in their 70s and 80s by this time. They had never been brought back together. This woman, with this desire, found the children, brought them back together, they believe she's her mother. So in fifth dimensional reality, here's a woman who's in her 40s talking to her children who are in their 80s. And they believe, you could see the videotapes, they believe this is her mother. And
they are all legitimately of the same line.
Yeah. And what's interesting is you get a picture of this mother in the 20s, and it looks like her today. Very, very similar. But to answer this woman's question, you can go both ways with it. If you're someone that's going into a spiritual crisis or a fifth dimensional crisis, be sure that the mental health people that you see understand something about spirituality, or else they're going to classify you as some sort of mental illness, put you on drugs, and possibly commit you. This is a sad thing I see out here, but there are spiritual crisis centers around. People are forming these, and it would be good to find out where these are and who are involved in these. And we should all be able to be compassionate with each other and realize if someone is really losing it, because our reality is shifting dramatically right now. We're seeing things, we're hearing things, the past is visiting us, the future is visiting us. All of this is going on. We have always operated on a multidimensional consciousness. It's now that we're becoming aware of it. We've always done this. We operate on many dimensions at the same time. We're multidimensional beings. Fifth dimensional awareness is the awareness of that. And so one thing I suggest to people, I teach in my workshops on how to get through this, is to breathe. To really breathe and not get mental about it. Let it pass. Let it come through. Some people write a book and get rich, others end up in the mental hospital. It's just the way you handle it and who surrounds you as you're going through this crisis.
That's an interesting point about who surrounds you. How do you identify who you should be with and who you shouldn't? Or if you're in a state that's that disturbing, how do you make choices of how you...
Well, pretty much, if you're married and have a family and stuff and this starts happening and your family's not into it, they're going to suggest you see a psychiatrist. It's time to seek out people that understand what you're going through, and to reach out also, for those who do understand, to reach out to those that don't understand what's going on. I talk a lot to psychologists and counselors about this and how to help people with this. A lot of people's third eyes are opening quite wide now, and that is the multidimensional interface. When your third eye opens a little too much, you start seeing and hearing things. These are not imaginary; they're real. But if you go to a psychiatrist, they're going to tell you that you're either something, and they're going to probably put you on some sort of drug to bring you out of it, sedate that sort of consciousness. With chakra balancing, you can actually adjust the third eye in the chakra system to handle fifth dimensional awareness. A whole lot of people are getting their third eyes opened right now too quickly, and this is just part of the growth process.
When you see too quickly, what's happening to them?
It just hits them all of a sudden, and it's an energetic thing that blows open the third eye, and suddenly you're a multidimensional being, and you're trying to relate to several dimensions at the same time, and people think you're funny.
So it's like suddenly having LSD or something.
Exactly, and in some cases. In other cases, you just may hear voices. In other cases, you just may see or feel things. The other thing about fifth dimensional awareness is that we're all part of the same being, by the way. All human beings are the same being. And so if your foot's hurting, you know it. And in fifth dimensional awareness, if someone else is hurting in the world, you're going to feel it. And that's to sensitize us to take care of the rest of the world. We will know its pain intimately.
Well, then in fifth dimensional reality, as we're experiencing it right now, it must be just pain, must be sheer pain.
Well, what
agony.
we're processing is what I call universal pain. It has been a long, hard road in evolution up till now. It really has been hard, a lot of work. We've been brutal to each other. We've been all of that. But we're coming out of it now. And it can be scary to some people because it's a shift. It's a definite shift in our normal reality.
But it is something we can contain.
We're built for it. We're built for it. Going into fifth dimensional awareness is like trying to walk again, as a baby. We're going to stumble. We might bump our head, but we shouldn't be locked up for it.
Well, heck, that's it. That's all we can do for the calls, and not too much. Oh, should we take one more little one?
Yeah.
Hi, you're on the air, but you have to be quick.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara. I have always had this question. I'll try to make this quick. That's hard for me. What's it like for a species, say a caterpillar or a butterfly, that who designs these things? Who designs the bugs? Who designs the evolution of bugs through the millennia?
The evolution of bugs, that's your question?
Yeah.
Now that's very mental. That's a very mental way of looking at it. As I saw it, what Gaia is a great experiment in consciousness. Everything that's ever been on Gaia is an experiment in consciousness, from rocks, how the planet coalesced into its solid form, and every plant and bug and everything on the way up to where we are is an experiment in consciousness. And Gaia is incredibly inventive. And to understand that, you have to go a little bit non-mental how that happens. But it is all of it up to this point, and including this point, is an experiment in consciousness. Grand experiments. Even that of a butterfly is a grand experiment in consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
Bye.
Hello, this is Mellon Thomas, and I hope that my insights from the other side will in some good way inspire you to love your life and this miracle planet that we share with all of Gaia's children. We are all, in so many ways, blessed beyond measure. Thank you.